Alrighty, looks like we've got Prosperity and Cornucopia guilds. We do have Colony and Platinum. So I see Horn of Plenty, and it tends to be the case that if you can play a bunch of Horns of Plenty, that's the thing to do. It's one of the better payload cards in the game. You just gain a bunch of horns, use horns to gain all the other stuff, and then on the last turn you convert all the horns into provinces all in one go. Usually pretty strong. That being said, there's not really any draw in this kingdom that would allow you to build towards a horn megaturn. The only draw is City, and only once a pile is empty. And I find that City, or the equivalent card from the Menagerie expansion, Paddock, it's usually not a good idea to plan around emptying the pile on your own and building an engine that only comes online once the pile is empty. Just because if your opponent ignores it and you're left taking 10 cities before your deck starts functioning, they're probably just halfway to emptying provinces before anything happens. Actually, this probably is a city kingdom, isn't it? So I stand by what I said a second ago, which is that in general, you don't want to plan on taking 10 cities and then start playing the game for real. But the other thing I'm noticing is Peddlers in the kingdom, and you got a cheap source of plus buy in the form of Hamlet. So I imagine something you're doing anyway in this kingdom most likely is play a bunch of Hamlets and then use that to get a bunch of Peddlers for 0 coins each. And then if the Peddler pile is naturally going to empty, well then all of a sudden City's going to be active, and then maybe City and Horn of Plenty become the thing to do. So that's probably where this is going. Peddler, Hamlet, early on, those will empty, then you add cities. I could see a world where if Peddler's empty and City's empty or close to it, well, you have a bunch of plus buy and you pile a stage or something before you even get the Horn of Plenty stuff working. But time permitting, I think Peddler into City into Horns looks like the correct go. I should also think about how to trash here. Cristobal trashes, but it's pretty terrible. Forge trashes, but isn't great without draw to line up a big Forge hand. And trying to get the cities to work before trashing any of your cards is putting the cart before the horse. Probably the answer is Forge. I think Quarry makes it easier to get Forge than usual. If you take 2 quarries, for example, and then you connect 2 quarries and a copper, that's a Forge right there. So I think you probably want to shoot for a Forge early-ish, and it'll trash a bit of stuff, and then that'll make your deck functional enough to get to cities. I think that's the game plan. Let's see if that works. I'll open with a Quarry and a Hamlet, I suppose. Bot goes with a Silver, fair enough. Young Witch. I don't think Young Witch is that great here. I mean, I plan on having a bunch of Hamlets naturally, which will block the Young Witch because Hamlet is the Bane card in this kingdom. I can see the curses being annoying if they get in before I get a Forge, but I think it's too inconsistent. This is probably just going to be a City and a Hamlet. Could be a Peddler and a Hamlet, maybe. Certainly don't need the City very much this early, and Peddler might get me to Forge sooner. I'll go with the Peddler. And a second Quarry now. I should look for opportunities to, say, set aside 1 quarry for the next turn via farm hands to make it more likely that my 2 quarries collide. The problem is I'm not sure in what scenarios I would have 4 money plus a quarry in hand. Yeah, I guess that's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? To set aside a quarry to line up my quarries, I'd have to have 4 money plus a quarry. And if I had 4 money plus a quarry, I would already have enough for a Forge anyway. Alright, so never mind. The farm hands quarry thing doesn't work. But there's a decent chance I'll find my quarries next turn. Yep, there we go. And this is actually a Forge plus a City. Plus something else even. It's a pretty nice turn. Forge, City. I didn't mean to click that. I was contemplating between Peddler and Hamlet. Hamlet's a fine choice, but I'm not sure if it was better than Peddler or not. Let's take another city and another hamlet. So far I've taken one curse from this young witch. Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, the bot has 2 young witches? I don't believe in young witch here, I don't think. The crystal ball I don't hate. I could see silver in the crystal ball perhaps being faster at thinning than the forge. In a world where my quarries don't collide, maybe I get to forge slower. But the young... I'm just not a fan of young witch. Alrighty, hamlets are close to empty. That's actually probably going to empty before cities do, and I think it's 2-0 in cities, unless I'm making that up. I could consider emptying hamlets here, actually, to activate my cities early. Didn't expect to have this many hamlets. I don't love discarding a card before triggering a shuffle, because this copper is going to go right back into the shuffle, but I value plus buy a whole bunch. Yeah, I think I'm just not forging this turn. If I discard quarry, I can't afford anything. If I discard copper, I could forge a copper, but forge's gain is not optional. So if you trash a copper, you have to gain a card costing 0, so you have to get the copper back. So I think I'm just going to discard the forge and empty the hamlets. I could take a city this turn and then empty hamlets next turn, but if both my cities are in that next hand, I'm going to feel silly doing that. Like this. Yeah, try again, bot. How thin is the bot? I think most of the junk in the trash is mine, right? Didn't I forge like 4 things? Feels like these 2 crystal balls have not trashed that many cards. I think I'm just going to discard this hamlet to avoid triggering that shuffle, which has none of my cities in it. It does have the forge down there. I'll just take a city and some peddlers. And I would like a Horn of Plenty soon, I think. Horn of Plenty will be the best way to gain additional Horns of Plenty, because that's the one thing not cost reduced by quarry. I think I'm going to be a little bit more sparing on what I discard here, because I might draw my forge. Nope. Alright, well, city and horn. This turn I'm for sure getting to the forge. If I deactivate this, can I choose which hamlet I want to reveal? I've got 3 of them. Let's go with the middle one. I don't want to do that every time. Alright, bot takes a Horn of Plenty. Yeah, I'm not discarding anything here, I don't think. I just want to draw as many cards in my hand as possible. Get off one more big trash. Probably still not time to trash the quarries. They're quite good at getting cities. I could have kept a Peddler in hand. You know, Peddler costs 8 in the action phase, so you could trash Peddler into Province using Forge. Something to look out for. Maybe I'll trash 1 quarry. As established, if I just trash a bunch of coppers, I have to gain a copper back, which is kind of a bummer. Yeah, for sure I trash a quarry. Worst case scenario, I can just gain the quarry back if I still want 2 of them, which maybe I do. Yeah, the quarry still looks better than either of the other 4s. I'll take another city. Or is this another horn? I might be thin enough now to warn another horn. Uh-oh, I'm undefended. The one turn I don't have a hamlet in hand and the bot doesn't find its young witches anyway. How tragic. Alrighty, draw a bunch of cards. Take some plus buy here, because I would love to get some cheap cities. Still think I want to forge if possible, so probably not discarding everything. My deck has a lot of hamlets to resolve. Well, as I say that, if I play that hamlet, I'm just drawing an estate and trashing estate copper into another estate. That's not too exciting. I think I'm just going to take plus buy. Okay, some more horns. I've only got 6 unique cards, so I should probably up that. Take a farmhand and set this hamlet aside. That gets me to 7. Crystal Ball does some nifty things with Horn of Plenty, because you can play Horn, gain another Horn, play Crystal Ball to play said Horn. I can see adding a Crystal Ball now. Sure, why not? Alright, so now 1 farmhand set aside. I don't think this is excessively risky, right? I have 8 of the hamlets, it looks like. 9 of the hamlets because I set one aside. Yeah, the bot doesn't have much in the way of buys or gains. I don't think it's piling city plus peddler. I think I can take this penultimate city. You always have to be careful about taking the last city, because then your opponent's cities get plus buy all of a sudden, and then they might pile out on you. Or if there's mid-turn gains, even taking the penultimate city can be dangerous. Like, let's say the bot had a forge in its deck. Maybe there's a scenario where I lower city to 1, and the bot forges something into a city, empties the pile, then plays all of its cities and gets the plus buy. But I'm not seeing any way to do that here, so I think this is totally safe. Also, speaking of which, I should consider doing that on my turn, right? Like, I could forge a horn or a crystal ball into a city, and then all my cities come with plus buy. If we get the opportunity, I will do that. I've only gained 1 curse this game. The bot opened with Young Witch and took a second one pretty early on. Yeah, sorry, hard bot. Still no. I think it's in desperation mode, which explains why it's playing a little bit slowly. If nothing looks like a winning line, it's harder to find a clear, correct decision. I think the bot has probably picked up on the fact that I am, in all likelihood, winning next turn. Taking that city is actually not crazy. Like, I was just explaining how emptying cities, just to let your opponent be the first one to have plus buy with cities, is often a death wish. And if this kingdom were closer, I think that would definitely be true. For example, giving me a ton of plus buy makes it easy to pile the peddlers. But if you're the bot and you see essentially no way to win, then presumably what you're praying for is, what if I just have like a total dud turn and I draw like all of my horns and coppers in hand? What's the line that lets you take advantage of that one freak dud draw? Well, lowering the cities for yourself and then opening up the possibility that you pile up peddlers. If I have a horrible dud, makes sense. Why have I... Oh, this is from the farmhands from last turn. So long ago that I've now forgotten. Can I find my forge? I just want to play a forge before I play cities. This should be a trivial win. Any number of ways. Okay, there it is. Oh, wait a second. I kind of forgot why I was doing that. The whole reason I was looking for my forge was so I could empty the city pile, but the bot just did that. Okay, possibly there was a better set of decisions to make with those hamlets. I could have discarded for buy or held off on them and forged them into something good. Not sure. Okay, so I could forge Peddler into province, but I don't have any 3s to turn it into a colony. So probably I'm doing 2 estates, hamlet, and a crystal ball into colony. Or I could do forge, quarry, crystal ball, estate into colony. Forgot what the bottom card is. Probably copper or something. Or maybe it's a horn. No, the bot has 1 horn. I don't know what it is. What maximizes points here? Do I need that crystal ball to gain provinces? I have hamlet, peddler, farmhand, city in play. That's 4. Forge makes 5, copper makes 6, quarry makes 7, horn makes 8. Yes, I have 8 uniques either way. Crystal ball does not make a difference as to whether I get to either 8 or 11 unique cards, so I won't bother thinking about it. Yeah, there's no way I could forge into another unique card and get up to 11, right? Just double check. All of this is entirely pointless. I'm going to win regardless. Yeah, I have these 4 cards in play. I have 4 treasure cards. Forge makes 9. So even if I forged, actually, let's say 2 estates into a young witch, that gave me to 10 uniques, which still isn't enough to gain colony off of horns. So that does make a difference. And if I trash the crystal ball, I get into 8 and can still gain province. So there's nothing super fancy to do here. I'll just do crystal ball, quarry, hamlet into a colony. Gain a bunch of provinces. 3 peddlers, colony, and an estate. Okay. Yeah, I'd say this went relatively well for me. Like, the bot went very heavy for the young witch, and maybe if I had some more turns where the hamlets were clumped up in one hand, and then I took some curses in the other hand, the bot's early young witches could have made more of a difference. And then maybe if I get to forge slower, I'm in some trouble. But I think in the average case, young witch looks not worth it, and gunning for the early forge looks better than trying to trash with crystal ball. The bot had 2 of these from, I think, a fairly early stage, and still has most of its junk left. So I'm not a believer in the crystal ball. I think you play with a forge, you play with a bunch of cities, peddlers, and hamlets, and you just gotta watch out for piles, because the bot will do tricky stuff with piles at a low number.